Good afternoon and welcome to our online event, Keys to Successful Digital Transformation in Horticulture. My name is Irene Hartkamp and I will be your host this afternoon. This event is brought to you by Mprise, a Microsoft partner in the Netherlands. Mprise developed the add-on Agriware based on Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, and it was designed specifically for the horticultural sector. Well, this event is about digital transformation, but what is that? It's the integration of digital technology into all areas of your business. This not only changes the way you operate and deliver, but it also provokes a cultural change within the organization. Keeping up with constantly changing technology can be a challenge, and this is no different in horticulture. So today we would like to discuss digital transformation in horticulture. What are the keys to success? And what does this mean for your business, your people, and for sustainability? This event is interactive, so we would love to hear from you, our viewers, as well. There's the possibility to ask your questions in the chat. It's on the right side of your screen. There's a chat window. Feel free to ask any question that pops up. Later on in the program, we will discuss some statements. And under poll, you will see the statement and you can give your opinion. And we would love to hear from you then as well. In the middle of the program, we will have a short, maybe 10-15 minute break. And for now, let's get started. We are honored to have as our guests today Jacco Kuipers, CFO for Bol Horticultural Company in the United States. Verstegen, ICT Manager at Rijk Zwaan. And Ernst Barendregt, CFO at Royal van Zanten. But first, I would like to take a moment to discuss our topic of today with William van Loenen. William is Product Manager at Mprise Agriware. And William has over 12 years of experience connecting the two worlds we are talking about today, IT and horticulture. So, William, I would like to ask you, what is your view on digital transformation in the horticultural sector? And what are, according to you, the keys to success?
Yeah, thank you, Irene, for the introduction. And I'm happy to share my thoughts with you all. As a software product manager, I work daily with modern products to help businesses innovate and transform. But today I'm not going to talk about software. Software is required for digital transformation, but it's not necessarily the key to success. And I think the key to success can be found in the human being. The people in your organization make the difference in successful digital transformation. But it's not just anyone who can do this. I think for a successful digital transformation, you need talent. You need talent and you need the right people on the right place. The right place, it's important to distinguish 4 key areas, namely technology, data, processes, and organizational change. And every area requires its own talent. So let's have a look on every single area. First, we start with technology. So, Internet of Things, data lakes, machine learning, artificial intelligence, there's a lot going on and you probably know all these buzzwords. But the challenge is how you can adapt every single technology to serve your business goals. So the translation of technology in your business is key. Next is the challenge to fit new technology into your existing IT landscape. A lot of companies have to deal with technical debt and existing landscapes which are outdated. And next to that, the IT department quite often is focused on just keeping the lights on. So you need someone, which I would call a technologist, who is able to think from business value first and then technology, who can translate every technology into the business value, business processes. Next, he needs to have strategic sense to trade off the technological decisions to balance innovations and technical depth. And last but not least, this needs to be a great communicator, since this role has to team up with the people from all other areas. Let's have a look on the data area. So most companies understand that data is of great importance, but they also know that quite often data is of bad quality. And sometimes they blame the IT department for that when they face poor reports. But same as for the car, if you fill up with the wrong fuel, your car won't get far. And same applies to your organization. Since data is the fuel of technology, if you want a high-performing organization, your fuel, your data, needs to be on a high quality. So for that high quality of data, you need awareness in the organization. So you need data culture changes, since the data-driven thinking should become part of your organization's DNA. So it requires awareness of people throughout the complete organization, from work floor to management. And it's not by chance that I mentioned work floor first, since most data is created on the work floor. So that data culture changer needs to be able to let people see themselves as data customers and data creators. People on the work floor, people on the front line, they consume data and they create data. So this culture change needs to be able to think through what data is required now and what data is required after a transformation. On the same time, for the frontline workers, it's a big change. So this person needs to help the frontline workers to improve their own processes and tasks to create data correctly. Then we come to processes. So an organization consists of a group of people and the department which work together to achieve a common goal, such as building a great product or satisfying customers. But every step, every process needs to be in line and communicate with each other to achieve the end goal. So the process orientation is a way to align this, to keep everyone aligned in every department. And especially when you're going to change things, it's of great importance that the train keeps running. So you need someone who is able to kind of keep everyone aligned, and I would say you need someone who is able to herd the cats, since everyone has its own agenda, and if you don't pay attention, you improve on specific areas, but then it's just a series of improvements and not a transformation, a real transformation. So then we come to the middle, organizational change. So those who gravitate to technology, data and processes are not directly thinking of the people aspect of this change. So you need someone who's able to understand the impact of changes to the organization and to the human beings, the people on the work floor. Since changing things could threaten people, and sometimes people feel uncertainty when they start using new technology. So you need someone in the organizational change area who can balance the rational changes and the emotional feelings of the people. And you should team up with the people from the data, technology and process people to align everything they do with the people aspect. So, now we've seen what's important on which area, which talent is required, and the next step would be, okay, but where to start? Well, I think it's important to do things step by step. So start with your end goals in mind. Start with business goals. What do you want to achieve? And focus on specific areas. So specific business areas you want to optimize first. Then recruit all people on these 4 areas to make it work. It doesn't make sense to automate the process which doesn't work. So quite often process innovation or refactoring comes first. In other cases, artificial intelligence is required to do a transformation. So since bad quality is not helping you with smart AI models, then data quality optimization should come first. So it depends, case by case, where to start. But it's important that wherever you start, make sure that all 4 competences are in place to make it to a success. So I've come to an end, and I would give you this quote which I borrowed from Harvard Business Review, which says, technology is the engine of digital transformation. Data is the fuel and process is the guidance system. Organizational change capability is the landing gear. You need them all, and they must function well together.
Thank you, William. We will get back to you for a short recap at the end of this event. Our next guest is Jacco Kuipers, CFO at Bol Horticultural Company. Jacco is currently living in the United States, although he's from the Netherlands originally. But he has been living in the United States for the last 14 years. Jacco is here with me on a screen. The rest of our guests will be here in the studio, but of course traveling is a bit complicated at the moment. So we are very happy to have Jacco here video calling us. There he is. Well, Jacco, before I let you do your speech, I would like to say a few more things about you. Well, he's living in the United States. In his free time, he likes to play double bass and bass guitar. He's also very fond of ice skating, although it's a challenge to find a place to do that in the Chicago area. Today, he's with us to share his vision on digital transformation in the horticultural sector. So let's start with watching a video about Bol Horticultural Company.
Bol Floraplant broke ground on its Las Limas production facility in Nicaragua in 2012. Designed to deliver a consistent, quality cutting every single shipping week, the first 3 greenhouses have been constructed to deliver on this promise that they make to their valued grower customers. Las Limas is located near the city of Esteli, which provides a friendly and skilled local labor force, as well as an optimal growing climate. At 2,723 feet above sea level, the climate and altitude at Las Limas provide high light and low humidity, the perfect environment for growing perfect plants. Nicaragua is the largest country in Central America and has the lowest population density. Currently, Nicaragua is experiencing a time of development and expansion. There's more foreign investment, more employment opportunities, and tourists have been flocking to its shores to experience the country's cultural and natural diversity. According to U.S. News and World Report, Nicaragua has the lowest crime rate in Central America. Las Limas is a state-of-the-art facility featuring 18-foot-high gutters for optimal airflow, automated vents, fans, and shade cloth to allow for the optimum climate. The fertilizer schedule can be custom set for specific zones in the greenhouse and even for specific crops so that each plant type gets the best possible treatment. All irrigation water is collected and recycled. It never reaches the floor where it could cause humidity variations. Bol Floraplant has plans to construct 40 acres of greenhouse, with 32 acres already built. Those 32 acres are one fully enclosed greenhouse facility connected by a large corridor. This way, employees avoid having to enter and exit multiple greenhouses, which would allow insects, diseases, and bacteria to travel into the bays through the air or on their clothes or hands. There are 3 stages to the sanitation process at Las Limas. Stage 1 is upon entry of the facility. Everyone who enters must wear a lab coat and special boots and thoroughly wash their hands and arms up to the elbow. Stage 2 happens before entering the greenhouse, where a disposable apron and gloves need to be put on and hands and arms again need to be sanitized. Stage 3 is especially for the solanaceous house, where Bol Floraplant's most important crops, calibrachoas and petunias, are grown. It's vital that these crops are kept as clean as possible, so there are only a certain number of employees who are allowed in this area. All of the water used at Las Limas is recycled, which not only makes it a more sustainable operation, but also prevents employees from having to unnecessarily reapply fertilizer. The water is collected in troughs in the greenhouse and goes through several filters, screens, and UV sanitizers so that the water is clean when it's used on the plants again. Once the water goes through a slow sand filter, a UV light system, and is injected with chlorine, it's tested to see how much fertilizer it still contains. Fertilizer is then pumped back into the system only when necessary. Nothing gets wasted and no fertilizer or other chemicals is dumped into the ground. Most importantly, the water is sterilized so that there's no possibility of viruses or bacteria going into the system. Once a cutting is harvested from a stock plant, it's placed in the cooler no more than 20 minutes later. The speed with which the cuttings are taken and cooled is essential, because as soon as a cutting is harvested, it begins to deteriorate. Keeping the cuttings cool slows this process. Employees that are harvesting the cuttings put them in portable coolers in the middle aisles of the greenhouses right away, starting the process almost immediately. Then runners, whose sole job is to get the cuttings from the portable coolers into the larger ones near the shipping area, can be seen transporting the cuttings via bicycle, which is fast, efficient, and clean. All floor plant divides their crops into two groups based on their cooling temperatures and/or pre-cooling needs. Each cutting is scanned so that staff knows which cooler it needs to go in. Some crops also need a pre-cooling period because it has absorbed a lot of heat from growing in the greenhouse for many weeks. To ensure the best possible cutting, harvesters get extensive training. Every crop has a different cutting specification and technique in order to harvest it properly, so the training process is taken very seriously. Not only are harvesters taught the desired specifications and quality of cuttings, but also on cutting count accuracy. There's supposed to be 105 cuttings in each bag, and if the count is off in even just one bag, that means Ball Floor Plant has not delivered the quality and accuracy that it promises to their customers. Having a consistent workforce is very important. Because the nature of Ball Floor Plant's product is very seasonal, one of the company's goals is to have previously trained employees who come back every season. After a few years of building a reputation as a great place to work, Ball Floor Plant takes pride that over half of their harvesters returned this year. Building an experienced team is key for shipping quality cuttings. And how did Las Limas earn the distinction of being a pleasant workplace? Ball Floor Plant believes it's important for its employees to enjoy their jobs and care about the company they work for. One of the benefits Las Limas offers to its employees is a nurse's station located on the property that provides free health care. There's free transportation to the farm. There's a newly renovated cafeteria for breaks and lunches. And during their off time, employees can enjoy playing a game of baseball or soccer on the field outside. Every bag of cuttings has its own barcode, which is scanned when it's ready for shipping to make sure each order is accurate. It also allows employees to track every bag to the exact plant and bench the cuttings came from, if there's a need to troubleshoot any problems. Once the cuttings are harvested, bagged, and entered into the system, the goal is to ship them to the grower or rooting station in just 36 to 48 hours. Speed is vital to ensure that the cuttings stay as fresh as possible. It's a living thing, after all, and needs to be placed in the growing media as soon as possible. Las Limas is located right along the Pan American Highway, and improvements to infrastructure in Nicaragua have enhanced the road, making it easier to get the cuttings from the farm to the airport in Managua quickly. For example, when the cuttings leave Las Limas on a Sunday at 5 p.m., in most cases, that box would be delivered to the greenhouse in the U.S. on Tuesday morning. Las Limas and its people make it happen. 99% order fill means Ball Floor Plant is your most reliable source of unrooted cuttings.
So the reason we wanted to show the Ball Floor Plant Las Limas video is that that's the case study for about which I wanted to talk today. And it's actually one of several cutting farms that we operate in Latin America, together with, among others, our perennials specialized farm based in Colombia. And with these two farms, we embarked on a journey to advance, to master the use of data in our process. And really, we did this based on a couple of critical success factors, which for us are labor planning and recruitment. You heard mentioned the seasonality and the importance of getting well-qualified people back year after year. We also see with cuttings, because it's live inventory, the accuracy and relevancy of inventory is a critical success factor in our vegetative production. And finally, we try to manage several constraints, be they in shipping capacity, in labor capacity, and in biology. How much can we get off of the plant, and how long does it take for the plant to recover? So with those things in consideration and our legacy systems aging, we decided to embark on a major overhaul of our systems environment that was based on two key decisions. One was we wanted to pursue a foundational technology platform. So we're looking for not just the application that manages our production execution, but have it be part of a platform that is more broadly applicable throughout our process. The other thing is, with multiple locations tends to start drifting in their processes because people are creative and will come up with new and better ways of doing things, which may happen at one location, but not the other. So we went through a process harmonization step before we committed to the system design and build. And really the mentality here is that our process drives our applications and our applications create the data. So the blue boxes really run from end to end the key processes that we were looking at. And then we had a best of breed, but communicating applications supporting each of those steps. And production execution, that application is Mprise's Agriware system. The goal, besides managing the process, is to generate the data. So we are looking to extract the data for all these best of breed systems into our data warehousing, and then from there to be able to provide insights to management through the use of dashboarding tools. How do we go about this process? Really, the first step we had to do was making sure that the frontline team felt empowered to make a difference. So instead of having our corporate IT staff dictate what needs to be the scope, what needs to be the desired process, we really made that the responsibility of the specialists at our farms. So we think of it as the farm specialists talk and the IT specialists listen. And that really helps both create an environment in which best practices were shared, but also in which we don't run into assumptions leading to unintended consequences. Another important area is that we let the farm teams make choices that gave them a sense of ownership. So they picked who were going to be on the project team. They picked the project name. In our case, the name is Project Astra for Agricultural Software Transformation. And very important, they got to pick the project goodies. So it's a little hard to see in the bottom right picture. That is the kickoff of our training. But everyone's wearing an Astra polo. There's Astra mouse pads. We made sure that the name was seen throughout there and that ownership was felt. All of this happened over the past 13, 14 months, which means all of this happened during a time that there was essentially no travel possible. So really, we've been doing this under the unusual circumstances that the specialists at Mprise, our corporate IT specialists, and the subject matter experts at the farm were not in the same room for well over a year, and for the foreseeable future will not be in the same room. That was difficult in terms of communication, but it also has led to the unintended consequence that really created a sense of unity among the team on the farm in Nicaragua, where we started, where they really felt like, well, we're in this, we need to own this because we have resources to help us, but they're far away. So we need to make sure that we know how the tools and how the systems work and how we interact with them. Another thing that was important for us was keep it simple, stupid. So don't over-engineer the solution. And we accomplished that through 3 specific actions. One is, as I mentioned earlier, instead of doing design, build, go live, we did blueprint, design, build, go live. So before we started finalizing our specifications of what the process and the data and the technology needed to look like, we set amongst ourselves to make sure that the process was defined for us in a harmonized manner. The data ask was defined in a harmonized manner, and that the technology would support the process and the data ask. We've also been very conscious about what is minimum viable product. So it can be easy to get carried away by scope creep when doing these transformation projects. We've been very particular all the way up to our ownership, where our goal is take an order, ship an order. It's not, have fancy reports around an order and have slick interfaces. We would like to have those, but we've defined a minimum viable scope where we could technically get the work done. And then thirdly, we have implemented a location strategy. So instead of doing a big bang implementation, we are consciously going through one location at a time. There's two benefits to this. One is that by putting our efforts on one location, and then once that location is up and running and stabilized and insights are being generated and results are being generated, we can use the subject matter experts from that first location to act as teachers for the second location. So it really creates, again, it reinforces that sense of ownership at the front line, that ownership at our production location. From an external support point of view, it also allows the core team to focus on a single location at a time, rather than running the risk of being too thinly spread, because if there's issues in multiple locations at a time, the prioritization might be a problem. And what we're hoping to get out of this, as the video indicated, we go from a fairly small core staff to a 6-7 times larger seasonal staff because of the seasonality of our product. So by having more effective labor management and labor tracking capability, we hope to improve our recruitment strategy, our seasonal hiring, and our retention strategies. The second element we're hoping is that by having more up-to-date and real-time data on inventory and the performance of the inventory, we hope that that can turn into insights that in return can feed into our planning to continue to sharpen the planning going forward. There's also the topic of sell-through. Vegetative production is essentially a fixed cost game. You're committed to your fixed cost the minute you finalize your production plan, because you're going to touch the stock plant, whether you take the cutting to ship it, or whether you take the cutting out because you need to throw it away, because you need to keep your stock active. So we're hoping that by better planning and higher quality labor, we can improve our sell-through. That doesn't just have a financial benefit, but it should also reduce waste in areas like planning, inventory, and the consumables and equipment and inputs that are needed to manage that inventory. So think of scalpels, bags, boxes, media, fertilizer, pesticides, all of those things. And finally, growing is an art and a science. We want to respect the art while improving the science. So we are looking to continue to advance to a data-driven mindset in our production locations. So that's a quick recap of the work that we are doing with as Ball, and then in particular with Ball Flora Plant at this point. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacco. We will do an interview now. I hope to see you on this screen, as if you were sitting here in the living room with me. Yes, there you are. Thank you. We have a couple of questions from our viewers for you. First, I'm curious, actually, you talked about the expectation to improve your labor management and seasonal hiring. But do you expect that digital transformation will change the type of employee you need? Their set of skills or the type of person?
So it will change the skill set for the team leaders in particular, because they will be asked to start keeping track of things in a more digital manner than they currently are. That may sound easy, but we're also dealing with often a fairly low-level educated workforce coming in, so it does change some of the hiring criteria. On the other hand, it also means that the actual process of that record keeping should be a lot more efficient, which means that it can free up the time for the supervisors and for kind of the professional experts for more value-added tasks, if that makes sense.
Yes. Okay, thank you. In the meantime, one of our viewers would like to know who is driving digital transformation and what is the role of the CFO in driving digital transformation in Bol?
So I would say that the concept of digital transformation is very much something that is carried by our executive committee. Mm-hmm. We currently have, say, probably about half a dozen major initiatives underway in various business units in terms of mastering the use of data. That's something we've identified as a strategic priority. And the role of the CFO in general, I think, is to be a sounding board and a rational skeptic, as well as an enabler of this process. And in our case in particular, the IT function reports into the CFO role. So I'm also tasked with the resourcing, both in terms of people as well as equipment and capital, to make sure that we pursue our digital transformation goals. So to me, the top management involvement and sponsorship is critical, because it really creates messaging that goes through the organization that shows the win, that shows why we're doing this. And it also gives a sense of this isn't optional. This is something we actively want to pursue as a company.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Flory would like to know if you could re-explain what you did with blueprinting.
Yeah. So because we want to apply the same solution, the same transformation process across multiple farms, and because those farms have worked in relative independence from another, chances are that processes have kind of grown apart over time. So one farm may do assigning harvesters to a greenhouse differently than the other farm. And if you try and replace the system that they're doing their work with, that's a great opportunity to say, let's have the experts in planning and in team management and labor planning sit together and say, how do you assign harvesters to a greenhouse? How do I assign harvesters to a greenhouse? What makes sense based on what we know? What's the best way to assign harvesters to a greenhouse? So we said, we look at your process, my process, we define the best process, and that's the process that we're turning into the design stage of the systems implementation. So for us, blueprinting is fairly high level, but it was mostly making sure that all of the locations that are going to run on the same systems had a chance to share their user stories, and for us to harmonize those user stories so that we could have a solution that worked for all locations, but also so we could work on one solution rather than two or more solutions we'd have to maintain with the extra complexity and cost that brings.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for one more question before we go to the first statement. The last question for you is from Micha, and he would like to know, what were the main challenges in the process?
Well, COVID was a big one. I mean, to state the obvious, I would have liked to have been in the studio today, but that wasn't possible. COVID was a challenge in the sense that when you form a team across multiple locations and countries to work on a specific issue, it is critical that the team members feel a sense of unity towards that problem. And I think that unity is a little harder to accomplish when you're talking to each other the way that I'm talking to you now over a screen than when you sit in the room with each other and you share lunch with each other, etc. So what we've been encouraging to do this well is to say the time that the groups from the farms, our corporate IT, and Mprise work together should not be the only time that we talk to each other. So we've asked for, make sure that this representative from this farm, that representative from that farm work together on this particular process, so that not only does this process get optimized, but also the two start thinking about each other to say, if I have a question about how to do my job, I can reach out to that other person So that is something that was difficult. I think we've reached the goals we wanted to reach, but I will say that that's an area where the in-person ability to see, feel, and observe how people do their jobs is critical. So if I could have it another way, I would have gone for that, but I think that under the circumstances, we led to the best possible outcomes.
Great, thank you. And we're happy that you're staying with us for the rest of this event to discuss the statements. Well, I would also like to invite our other guests into the studio to discuss the first statement. Also, the viewers at home or in your office, we would love to hear your opinion on this one. The first statement is this one. If your company is not data-driven within 2 years, you will be way behind your competitors. So what do you think? Do you agree or disagree? Or you don't know? That's also an option. Fill out in the poll, in the right side of your screen. You can see poll under that. You can fill out. Do you agree or disagree with the statement? If your company is not data-driven within 2 years, you will be way behind your competitors. In the meantime, Ernst and Peter are here in the studio with me. We would like to discuss this statement while people at home can vote. Since I just interviewed Jacco, maybe Jacco, if you could first give your opinion about the statement.
Yeah, well, to me, data is definitely something that can help sharpen your competitive advantage. But I think that data in isolation will not take your company to the promised land. So to me, it's one of the elements with which you can create or lose a competitive advantage. But I think, data seen separate from customer-focused and a dedicated and smart and empowered team and the right facilities and product mix, I don't think that data is going to take you there. So it increases the benefit, but it's not the only benefit. And it depends on the type of business you have, how big of an incremental benefit data can bring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're saying it is important, but it's not the only thing. What do you say, Ernst?
Yeah, like Jacco said, I totally agree with him. It's about what you do with the data. At Royal van Zanten, we have the philosophy that we use digitalization to improve processes as one of the solutions, the possible solutions. So it should not be standalone, but really to improve the process. Mm-hmm. So yeah, data alone is not the key thing, but really what you do with it.
All right, yes. Peter, could I have your opinion on the matter?
Yes, of course. It's not good for the discussion because I agree with Jacco and Ernst because it's one tool, but the tool is becoming much more important than in the past. So, but in the end, you also always have to be focused on your customer, of course. But data is more and more important, and so it's one of the drivers, I think. So that's my opinion.
Yes. Let's see if in the meantime we can already check what all our viewers have to say. What do our viewers think? Do they agree or disagree? Look, I see that 92% agrees, so they think data is the most important thing. Well, of course, this is it was put a bit sharp, of course. 8% says no. I think, well, all three of you, your answers were a bit more nuanced, but data is an important
yeah, data is important, certainly, but yeah. Now, as said, it's what you do with it. And I also think that the solutions nowadays can be implemented much more faster than like a decade ago. You have now the apps, middleware. You don't have to really build solutions into your software program, but you can build it as a layer above your core software. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's. I think you should not choose a direction now, but you can also do that later because you can implement it quite fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're saying it is important, but it's not the only thing.
Yeah, I think you should not choose a direction now, but you can also do that later because you can implement it quite fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you should not choose a direction now, but you can also do that later because you can implement it quite fast.
Okay, so you think the matter is not that urgent because we stated if your company is not data-driven within 2 years, like we wanted to point out the urgency of the matter, but you think, well, companies could also take it easy on this one.
Yeah, but you have to be open for the solutions. You have to be completely up to date with what is going on with technology, with solutions, to really step in if necessary.
Yes, but Jacco, if I could ask your opinion, you think it's a risk if you're not doing enough with data that you will be behind compared to your competitors?
Well, as said earlier, the implementation timeline for data generating solutions has definitely shortened. The challenge with that is that's a level playing field. So if I think of the statement about do you fall behind your competitors, it has become faster for everyone in the industry to be able to adopt best of breed tools and to start creating data and to start extracting insights from that. So to me, even though you can try and catch up faster, you still start behind. So from my side, I'm still standing by the we're seeing ourselves being driven by data-driven decision-making more and more often. I will also say that if I kind of look at the horticulture industry, we're still a relationship and experience-based industry. And so I kind of see those two in a little bit of a wrestling match about what's the most prevalent way to make the decision and to chart your path forward. So unfortunately, I can't give you a hard yes or no. I think my answer is really it depends. It depends on the type of business you're in, the urgency of your landscape, of your business landscape, and of the aggressiveness of your competition. I think those things drive how much of an impact a data advantage can give you in the overall competitive sphere.
Mm-hmm. Maybe Peter, could you tell us something about how is this for Rijk Zwaan, for example?
I think the urgency part is that if you wait for 2 years, then it's too late. So you have to start. And I think also it's part of my presentation later on. I think transformation is not a project from A to B. It's a process, and it's a continuous process. So with no end. So you really have to start. But 2 years is a very short time, especially in the growers world, where there's only a few production cycles in 2 years. But you definitely have to start. So that's the urgency part of it. Yeah. So don't ignore the possibilities, but look at it and explore the possibilities. So start with it. That's the important part.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing to realize that it's an ongoing project and it will never be finished, actually. No. That is a very good thing. Okay, well, we're almost going to take a break. Let's see if we have more questions from our viewers. At the moment, not. Then I would like to ask one question for Jacco. If there's a focus on registering data in the company, how do you make sure that you don't lose sight of your employees, their well-being?
Well, that's a really good question. I guess this comes back to the earlier statement that data in isolation will not take you to where you want to go. Like, if we were to, because for instance, with a large seasonal workforce, we do a lot of productivity tracking. If all we did was productivity tracking, and you may end up being exposed to kind of the dark side of that measuring, you may be exposed to, you're pushing so hard for productivity tracking that the push for productivity goes at the expense of the quality of work and or the quality of life. So measuring something like productivity in isolation behind a screen is risky. And it's also why for us, the people who measure productivity are also the team leads who walk in the greenhouse and who see the team interact and who can see if someone's struggling and who see if someone's not feeling well and who see, those types of things. So I think the importance is not just the data in isolation, but I think it's also creating insight and narrative from this. This team has really struggled. What's going on? Maybe they're in a greenhouse where there's been an issue with climate earlier, which means that the crop has taken a hit and the yield just isn't there. This worker has been struggling. Maybe it's time to go ask what's going on. Oh, there's an issue at home because your mother is sick. You know, I see it as that type of data tracking might create an action point, like, hey, something's off, I need to check into this. But I think if we just use the exception to say, this isn't working, we need to make a change, I think that would be the risk of going at the expense of the quality of work and quality of life.
Thank you. Okay, I think it's time we take a short break. After the break, we will be back to hear Peter Verstegen and Ernst Barendregt and their view on technology in horticulture. We will also discuss more statements, and we hope to see you back after the break to weigh in with your opinion. We'll be back in around 13 minutes at 2 o'clock, and stay tuned. Good afternoon and welcome back to our event Keys to Successful Digital Transformation in Horticulture. So I hope you grabbed your coffee, your tea, and you're back at your computer. This event is brought to you by Mprise Agriware, a software supplier for the horticultural sector. Before the break, we heard Jacco Kuipers, CFO for Bol Horticultural Company. And we heard William van Loenen, product manager at Mprise Agriware. During this event, you can ask your questions in the chat. It's on the right side of your screen. You see the chat window. Feel free to ask any questions for one of our guests, and we will try to answer them all during the event. We will go to our next guest. Our next guest is Peter Verstegen. He's ICT manager at Rijk Zwaan. Peter lives near the Dutch coast. He loves taking long walks, up to 20 or even 40 kilometers in nature. He's also very fond of cooking. In fact, he is part of 2 cooking clubs. And he told us, off the record, that he enjoys the cooking and eating equally. We are very thrilled to have him as our guest today. So let's hear what Peter has to say about the theme of today. But first, we will watch a video about Rijk Zwaan.
The world has been growing and evolving for many millions of years. Natural selection has resulted in tremendous biodiversity on Earth, an infinite source of inspiration and possibilities. As the global population continues to grow, nature is faced with an extra challenge. A growing population has different needs. More space for living, but also more food or better food. We want to contribute to a healthy future. That's why we are looking for new vegetables, new solutions, and new markets. For better results, healthier plants, and healthier food. To ensure the continuity of healthy food, we are continuously conducting innovative research in various areas to expand our knowledge. Every year, we invest more than 30% of our turnover back into research and development to achieve product excellence. We give our passionate, qualified people access to the latest technologies and the best international collaborative partners to help us push back the knowledge boundaries. We sell seeds of more than 1,000 varieties from 28 different crops. Those seeds are exposed to almost every conceivable condition that can occur in nature. By constantly checking the seeds we produce, meeting the high expectations of our customers, we ensure that our product quality is guaranteed. By gathering information and sharing knowledge, we want to be the link between all our chain partners. In our retail center, we give retailers insight in consumer behavior. In our trial centers, we guide our partners in the fresh produce chain throughout the journey from R&D to market launch. We want to make good ideas happen for the consumers of today and for every generation to come. This results in new ideas for breeding new vegetable varieties every day. We are constantly improving a variety by crossing new and desired traits into existing varieties. A fuller flavor, a longer shelf life, a different shape, a more consistent yield, a stronger disease resistance, or a better integrated pest control. This is how we want to contribute, by conquering new markets, devising new techniques, and pushing back the boundaries of what is possible. Seeing ample opportunities and solutions to ensure the positive and healthy future of our wonderful planet.
Thank you, Mprise, for inviting me for this webinar. I'm very proud of standing here. My name is Peter Verstegen. I'm the Group IT Manager of Rijk Zwaan. And I want to tell you something about how we form digital transformation within Rijk Zwaan. I think Jacco gave a very good example of a project that is a step in the digital transformation. And in my opinion, it's also about rethinking things and making use of the technology. But what is really important is the people that work with it. And shortly summarize Rijk Zwaan, we're established in 1924 by Mr. Rijk Zwaan. And this is Mr. Rijk Zwaan, and it still is a family-owned company. And nowadays we have more than 3,000 people working with us, from 1,500 in the Netherlands and more than 2,000 people in other countries. And what we're looking for is what we are is a strong company culture that is fit on the people that work in it. So that's one of the main pillars of our company. We're number 4 in the world of vegetable seeds. And here you see our competitors. We will have a turnover of around 500 million euros in this year. So that gives you more or less a view on the side of the company. How we see Rijk Zwaan is that we are positioned at the start of a chain, and a chain that in the end ends at the consumer, who is wants to eat vegetables and as part of a healthy lifestyle. So what we do every day is how can we add value to every partner in the chain. So we start with the grower, and then we think, how can we, for instance, increase the yield or create better resistance to diseases. We also think about how can we help our in food processing, and also, for instance, increasing shelf life for retailers. And in the end, then it's the consumer. And what we think every day is how can we use technology to improve that. So that's about thinking. That's a key element in digital transformation. And to illustrate that, I will give you and present you some examples, and I will do that by what I call the digital journey of an eggplant, or an aubergine, some people call it, and to give some illustration on that. To structure the story a little bit, here you see the 3 main steps in our company. We have the product development step that's created by our R&D developers department, the breeders. Then we have the operational step, that is the crop management and the processing of the seed. And in the end, we sell the seeds to our customers. So that's the market approach. And I will start my story at the end of that chain. To stimulate healthy, consuming vegetables, we also have platforms like I Love My Salad. And that's a site where people can interact with each other, food bloggers, vloggers, bloggers, and can share their recipes. And that's to stimulate the consumption of vegetables. So that's a start. In traditional way it's maybe on paper, now it's a digital site. It was also in part of the video, is that we have a retail center in Berlin, and there, together with the virtual reality, we show retailers how they can get more value out of their shelves where they present the vegetables. So that's changes. That's how technology is changing our market research and chain management. Another example. Then we think about how to sell the seeds. And traditional, we have sales people who sell the seeds to the growers. Nowadays, we are starting up with online sales, especially in areas where you have big distances like in Brazil. We have created an online shop where people can sell that same vegetable seed and sell buy the seed of an eggplant. So that's also a step in our process that we use our technology. One other example is that we now have a fully automated warehouse where we store our seeds, but this robot is picking the right seed for a customer. So that's a way that we make our processes more efficient and save costs for that. So that's another example in the step of what we call operation management. And then it all starts by the breeding technology. You see all kinds of technologies we use, consumer research, seed technology, phytopathologies. And that's all based on data nowadays that we get also in our trial stations and in the glass houses. That's data we use to create our new products. Some examples of technologies we also use is machine vision, so image analysis to inspect our products. The same here is for on a melon, also image analysis. Then we use a lot of sensors in our process glass houses, and in the end we have a really firm IT infrastructure. If you're interested in inspecting more or seeing more of these examples, you can go to the site rijkzwaan.com/solutions/technology. There you can get more information on that. What is really important, that is what I say, the key is the people. And to illustrate that, I think it's good to see how many people and how many specialists are involved by creating what we call an image analysis machine or a machine vision machine. This is a machine we have to inspect peppers. And if you look at all kinds of professionals that have to work together, it's people that are good in creating and building machines. You need people that know how image analysis work. You have people that in the field of artificial intelligence that create the algorithm to inspect the products. You need your breeders and selectors that can give you insight in how to look at the plant. You need people that are good in software development. You need people that create the IT infrastructure. And you need all kinds of things that sensor and sample data for you. And what is important in digital transformation, in my opinion, is that all those disciplines have to work together. You have to create a team. Normally, specialists like to talk to their own specialists that they know. But now you have to let breeders talk to the software developers or to artificial specialists in artificial intelligence. So, and also the partners that you need to build this machine. We are not a machine building company. You have to create new teams with that. And that's really a key element in making a digital transformation successful. So that is why, in my opinion, the people are the key factor in a digital transformation. Next week, some commercial for ourselves is also that next week there's also a seminar on digital transformation, and especially more the digital transformation you can do in crop management. So that's a nice example if you want to know more how we manage our greenhouses or greenhouses of producers. What did we learn so far? For me, digital transformation is not one project. It's a way of thinking and rethinking all the steps and all the products you produce. So it's a long journey, and I have to say we learn every day. Also, I think digital transformation is not something you can buy. You can buy technology, but to really use technology in your company, you have to have dedicated person. So you cannot, there's no quick step, there's no shortcut, it's a long journey, and you have to keep pace. It's also important, what I told in the example of the machine, to stimulate interdisciplinary collaboration. And then it's important to focus on personal and team development. So professions are changing, and you need every person to be part of that transformation. So you have to invest a lot in your people. And what is also important, you cannot do it on your own, so you also have to invest in long-term partnership with your suppliers and all kind of knowledge institutes that you have to work together. So that are the key elements for our digital transformation. So for me, it's a lot of possibilities are created with technology, but in the end, that's my key message, passionate people are the key factor for successful digital transformation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Peter. If you, as our viewer, if you have any question for Peter after hearing his presentation, just ask in the chat and we will discuss your question here with Peter. Thank you back to Studio 2, Peter, and thanks for your presentation. Of course, we would like to know a bit more. You are an ICT manager for Rijk Zwaan. But how strongly does digital transformation live in the boardroom with the management, or is it mostly a topic of interest for the IT department?
No, it's absolutely not only in the board, not only in IT. It's a part of the company culture, I think. Mm-hmm. As is told in the video, you see that we are an R&D company, so innovation is on the agenda every day, and we like to stimulate people that they think, how can we do things better? So maybe sometimes IT is pushing, but the real success is when people are pulling and asking for technology. So that's the main driver. That's always important.
Yeah, so it's important throughout the whole organization.
Yeah.
But also, it can be a challenge to get everyone on board if you introduce new things, new technologies. What is your challenge? Is it difficult to get everyone on board?
Well, you have people that hold back a little bit at the start, but it's tempting that you always listen to people that are enthusiastic. But in that statement, that 8% of people or the participants say, "Okay, I don't think you have to be data-driven in 2 years." I like to discuss with those people why they think so, because then you can learn from it. So the key is also to listen to people that hold back a little bit and not only listen to people that are enthusiastic. But of course there are challenges because some people don't want to change. But I think we're happy to have a culture that is really open-minded to change. Yeah.
Yes. And from day-to-day life, in the end, what does it mean for people in the workplace, the changes? What do they see?
I think it depends. Of course, we are quite a big company, so we have people that work in the glass house. We have people that work in the office and bookkeeping. So we have a lot of diversity in the company. But I think the key element or the main thing is that the work is changing, and you have to be aware of that. And well, that I think is important.
Yeah. Okay. We have a question from one of our viewers for you. Rijk Zwaan makes statements about how much is invested in R&D, but what is the percentage of investment in digitalization?
It's very hard to say. I think then there's a question of definition. What we see is, I think, what was told, 30 to 40% is invested in innovation, and what we see during the years is that the percentage of IT or technology is increasing a lot. So in the traditional way of breeding, you are crossing plants and you need a lot of acres and land space to do that, and we still do that a lot. But by introducing technology in it, you can make the processes more of higher quality and more efficient. So I think if you look to the percentages of IT within that 30–40%, it's increasing. But I don't have a number for that. No.
No. Well, I hope Uwe is content with the answer. Another question from another viewer. She asks, how do you prioritize all digital initiatives within the whole organization to be able to deliver projects?
Okay. That is the main challenge, because the fun part is that we have a company with a lot of ideas. And sometimes it's really difficult to focus on what is then an idea that we have to work out further. But we are a company that is not so much top-down, it's more bottom-up. So we love to bring people together and have discussion, and in the end we take a decision. But we don't have a exact framework for that. It's about convincing people and convincing to each other. But it's really important to have some focus points.
Yeah. I think it's a very good thing that it's bottom-up, so it's not... to make your priorities, it's very good to listen to everyone involved, of course. Okay, those were the questions from our viewers. I think it's time to go to our next statement. So our viewers can react to the next statement of today, the second one. So on the right side of your screen, in the chat window, you can push the button yes, no, or don't know about this statement. Digital transformation will make half of the work of a crop technician disappear. So that's the next statement. Digital transformation will make half of the work of a crop technician disappear. We will discuss this statement in the meantime with all of our guests. So Ernst, welcome back. Jacco is also here, present on the screen. We have to see it. We're sitting here with the four of us. In the meantime, while people at home can vote, maybe first I would like to ask you, Peter, what do you think? The work of a crop technician, will it disappear, half of it, or will it change? What do you think?
I don't know what the voters are thinking, but it will not disappear. It will at least change a lot. Because we're talking a lot about data today, but to make from data to knowledge, you need technical expertise and people who know everything about crop management. So it will change, of course, but it will not disappear. So we have to develop, the people have to develop themselves, we have to train the people. And also the crop technician, the work will change. If you look back 10 years, it was also completely different compared to nowadays. So
what has changed in the past 10 years, would you say?
I don't know, it depends of course on the company, but what we see is the change that they use far more technology, that we do much more registration and data collecting in glasshouses or in trial fields. Of course, we have also open fields. So it's become more from only green to more also the technology part, I think. That changed. Yeah.
And do crop technicians, well, of course they have a lot of skills, they really know the plants, but due to digital transformation, could you hire a crop technician with less knowledge? Because the knowledge is...
I'm not a specialist in crop management, but I don't believe that you can hire somewhere. I don't think you can hire an IT specialist to run a greenhouse. I don't believe in that.
No.
To give an extreme example, you need people that have green fingers and love to work with plants. I think that will stay, definitely.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I don't know if Ernst or Jacco, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I agree with Peter that the work will be different for a crop specialist, with more data to analyze. And of course, it is always the question: how far do you go with the collection of data? And you have to see it all together. If you only look at the speed of harvesting and not at the quality, you can completely make a misjudgment about what the data is saying. So yeah, I agree. You really have to have the feeling with the crop, with the plants, know how they react with temperature and stuff like that. And I'm saying that as a finance and IT guy, so I'm trying to imagine that. But yeah, really, it will change to more data. You see it at Royal van Zanten. It will change to more data-driven decisions and analysis. That's basically how the work is changing, what I see.
So you'd say that it's more supporting of the work of a crop technician and not replacing?
No, it's supporting, really, yeah. It's supporting, and it's you really have to think through what the data is saying to you, because you can also make really misjudgments with factors that are not measured, for example. Yeah. So don't jump to conclusions too fast, because otherwise you can be completely wrong. But really learn how to analyze the data. Yeah. But yeah, there's also some simple things which can support the crop specialist, like the scouting app in the greenhouse. That's really a really simple step of digitalization, and which the crop specialist has very much help with to do his job.
Yes. I'm looking at Jacco now. Jacco, do you have anything to add to this? What do you think about the statement?
So, if I'm a grower, the two things that I would like to get out of digital transformation is automate stuff that doesn't require my judgment and provide me with information where I'm asked to make a judgment. And so if I get those two things, then as a crop technician or a grower, I can take on either an increased span of control, take on more greenhouses, take on more different varieties, or I can take on a more complex set of responsibilities. Because I think it's not just the digital transformation that should make life easier and decisions better. At the same time, the quality expectations for what a grower produces is different. It needs to be, A+ quality every shipment, every week. You need to hit the quantities that are committed to. You also need to make sure that you stay within the guardrails of what your sustainability program might demand from you. So in order to deal with that more complicated environment, I see digital transformation as a way to take the easy stuff off my plate. Please tell me what I need to know to answer the difficult stuff. And by doing those two things, I can take on the broader set of responsibilities and operate in a world where I need to not just give a better output, but also tends to be a more complex output, if that makes sense.
So we still need the combination of the digital data and a human brain. Fortunately. I think a lot of people are concerned, right? That digitalization will take away jobs, or that. Is that something that's that you hear a lot in Bol horticulture?
If anything, we're adding jobs, but the jobs are different than the jobs were 20 years ago. So where 20 years ago, someone might have a role to gather data, compile in some way and present as information. If that's a recurring process, we can automate that now. So now what we look for instead is somebody who receives that information and turns it into insight. So the skill is less clerical and more analytical based. So, but at the end of the day, because I would say every step of the chain is getting tighter in terms of tolerance for quality deviation, quantity deviation, sustainability compliance, and regulatory compliance, I would say that it's not a matter of how many people, it is what do the people do. It's really, to me, is the big driver of how digital transformation changes people's jobs. If I look at the role that when I started in the greenhouse, half my time was scribbling things on clipboards to give to someone who would key it into a computer, to give it to someone to turn it into a chart. Now it's you scan, the chart comes out. Like there's 2 or 3 steps eliminated. That frees up time, but the time that's freed up tends to be well used on now how am I going to act on what's in the chart? So yeah, I don't see this as it's going to replace people. I think it means that you need people because ultimately our ability to make judgment calls is something that computers are trying to approximate, but they're just not there yet. I also think that there's still an intuition piece, especially into the growing aspect. Like it just feels off. You know, I've never heard a computer say that it feels off and act upon that. So I think it's a matter of not so much how much, but what do people do? That to me really is the impact of digital transformation on the workforce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if I can add, I like the idea of what William was saying in the beginning of this event. Also, it creates a different, additional role within a company. Mm-hmm. Really, maybe a kind of chief management, data management manager, who is guiding those processes, who is looking at outside the company what is possible, what can be a solution. And can implement that and can help and guide the other employees within the company. So yeah, maybe it's a new role within a company who really can support this transformation. So yeah, that's I think that's a really maybe a really good solution to help this transformation within a company.
Yeah. Anything to add, Peter?
I was thinking about people that work in an agriculture company. They work for the company for a very long time normally. Mm-hmm. And I was triggered by your remark that it's really important to stimulate people that they look outside of their own company and to have interaction with other technology to get inspired. And that's also what I do with people in my department, that they look outside of Rijk Zwaan. Yeah. Are there any new possibilities? What are other companies doing? So that's also important.
Yeah. All right. Let's check to see if our viewers have some questions. And I'm seeing there are a lot of questions, actually. First, well, I have one for you, Peter. To all our viewers, we will discuss some of your questions in this event. If we don't get to your question, we will follow up on it after the event, so no worries. But I have a good question, I think, for you from Patrick, and he asks, what about costs in relation to the benefits they bring? Are the first years the heaviest?
The first years are definitely the most costly years, yeah. I think. But it's important to always have a long-term focus, because also in agriculture is about long-term vision, and the benefits will not appear in the first year, of course. And also what I told in my presentation, it's about learning, and learning is also a cost side a bit. But in the end, it's about profit, and the benefits should be bigger than the sum of the cost, of course. That's logical. But don't expect a turnaround in 1 or 2 years, because it's a long journey. Mm-hmm. So keep the focus on the long term. That's important. Also, if you have some disappointments, look forward and go ahead. That's important.
Yeah. Carry on if it seems a bit rough.
Yeah, it's a bumpy road. Yeah.
It's a bumpy road. Yes. Well, later on, I hope we will have a bit more time to discuss more questions. But for now, time-wise, I'd like to go to our next guest of today. Our next guest is Ernst Barendregt. Ernst is CFO at Royal van Zanten. As much as Ernst loves his job, being occupied with both finance and IT, he prefers to spend his free time as far away as possible from screens. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Ernst loves nature, and his favorite thing to do is sailing.
Yes.
Yes. Well, you'll have very Dutch hobbies: walking, ice skating, sailing. We are curious to know, of course, what Ernst has to say about our topic of today. But first, we will watch a short video about Royal van Zanten, a company that's always in motion and looking for ways to improve.
everybody loves flowers.
We love lilies and we love flower bulbs as well.
It's the color, it's alive, it's simply beautiful.
The Dutch company Royal van Zanten is one of the oldest flower breeders in the world. Yet it still remains to lead the international floriculture industry, breeding attractive and robust new varieties for more than 150 years and counting.
The Dutch company Royal van Zanten consists of Van Zanten flower bulbs and Van Zanten breeding. We develop new flower varieties for the professional grower all over the world. We specialize in pot plants and cut flowers, astromerias like you see here, as well as chrysanthemums, lilies and statice.
Pot plant breeding consists of varieties like aster, celosia, pot chrysanthemums and pot alstroemeria. In addition, millions of flower bulbs are produced every year.
We focus on flowers that give value to the entire chain, not only to consumers, but also to growers and trade.
It all started in 1862 in this Dutch town of Hillegom, where a potato-growing smallholding began cultivating flower bulbs. Nowadays, this family business has become an international famous breeder of award-winning plant varieties. Van Zanten earned the royal status in 1991 for its century-long contribution to the Netherlands. Royal van Zanten now operates in 15 countries and employs nearly 1,300 people all over the world. Royal van Zanten is a market leader in cut flowers like alstroemeria by a whopping 50% market share and even 100% market share of Bouvardia. A lot of research and development is needed in order to create new varieties. For alstroemeria and lilium breeds, this can take 7 to 8 years.
New trends in our product developments are pollen-free varieties, even odorless varieties and double flowering varieties. New strong lily varieties which have a very good vase life are highly demanded by our customers.
The latest methods like marker technology and DNA analysis are used at the laboratory to meet the latest customer and market demands.
In this part of the greenhouse we see production of tissue culture material. Coming from the laboratory, we plant them in the greenhouse for 1 season. After 1 season, we bring those bulbs to Brabant and we plant them outdoor to grow the scaling bulbs.
Apart from the 150 hectares of bulbs produced in the Netherlands, the company also grows 120 hectares on the southern hemisphere in New Zealand to ensure a reliable year-round supply for its customers. A total production of 95 million lily and other spring varieties of bulbs. Another breed that the flourishing company is famous for is the chrysanthemum.
We are producing the best cut chrysanthemums in the world.
1 out of 6 chrysanthemums that brighten up the days of customers worldwide are made by Royal van Zanten.
First step is the breeding process. So this is all research and development, just devoted to producing, selecting the best varieties. It's the dedication to the crossing process, it is the precision in the sticking process, it is the knowledge. It's impossible without passion.
It can take up to 3 years to create a new breed of chrysanthemum. After a variety has been carefully selected and considered commercially successful, cuttings are transported to Uganda and multiplied.
In Uganda, we have close to 1,000 employees picking our cuttings there, the irrigation process. We make sure that at our farm we have a good healthcare system, so there's a doctor on site. You see kids going to school, you see people eating a healthier diet. It's a motivated team.
150 million chrysanthemum cuttings produced each year at the African continent are rooted in this Dutch facility. 14 robots are planting 3,000 cuttings an hour for ultimate precision, consistency and quality.
We collaborate with various partners in the entire value chain to develop and apply the latest technology. We also work with our customers to find out what the current trends are.
The constant search for factors like the best flower, shelf life and productivity has led to a worldwide fan base. Products are transported to more than 60 countries in collaboration with 50 partners and agents.
So we have extremely loyal customers.
Dutch flower growers, but also customers in Colombia, Japan, China.
Even after all these years, we continue to bring new flowers to the world every day, striving to surprise our consumers and create value for our customers.
Still, passion remains the key driver for us to achieve our goals within this company.
It's a beautiful gift to work in this every single day.
Royal van Zanten, driven by passion.
Yeah, good day. As you know, my name is Ernst Barendregt. I'm the CFO of Royal van Zanten. And I'm very pleased to tell you something about digitalization at Royal van Zanten. First of all, my personal profile. I have a financial background, working in the floricultural industry since 2015, working for Royal van Zanten since 2019, and I'm responsible for the finance and IT department within Royal van Zanten. This is the agenda of today, something about Royal van Zanten. I will keep it short because you already saw the movie. Next to that, digitalization used at Royal van Zanten. Furthermore, our view on digitalization. And I want to highlight one key success factor which we think is very important in this process. Now, Royal van Zanten is a breeder and propagator. We are active in the cut flowers, pot embedding, and the flower bulbs. We have about 75 million yearly turnover. We have customers worldwide and more than 1,000 people working from us at different locations around the world. Our product portfolio consists of cut flowers, pot plants and flower bulbs. Now, examples are shown here on the slide. We have a worldwide presence. We have some locations in the Netherlands, where also our headquarters is located. Furthermore, we have locations in Uganda, South Africa, Colombia, New Zealand, and also a sales office in Australia. Now, the topic of today, digitalization used at Royal van Zanten. What our view is digitalization should lead to more value for our customers. Now, and you can think about faster and better new varieties by improving our breeding process, but also improve production quality and reduce costs of production. And last but not least, also improved customer service. And we see digitalization is really a possible solution to improve operational processes and also strategical decisions. Now, we work with a lot of systems that generate data within our processes. Now, for the breeding activities, we have mobile applications that do registrations of breeding information in the greenhouse. Now, we have a smart greenhouse to support this digitalization, and all this data which is generated inside the greenhouse will grow to our breeding systems, that's Hybrida and Progeno, that gathers the information and we can do analysis with it. And the final goal is really to improve our breeding operational process and also the strategical decisions for breeding. If you look at our commercial activities, we are currently using two systems. That's Mercado to do the registration of our assortments. So our complete assortments is in this system, but also we follow up the outcomes of the flower trials. So what what is the opinion of our customers concerning our new varieties. Now, next to that, we are using a CRM system, that's DigiOffice, which we use, for example, to register customer visits, but also it's used for a document management system. It's important to also store your contracts and or your agreements in a neatly manner. Now, also those two systems generate data. And with this data, that is used to optimize our commercial operation, but also what is our strategy. Now, in production, we are using also a couple of systems. The scouting app in the greenhouse. We are also using mobile applications for registration, for crop protection, but also for the movement of the plants throughout the greenhouse. The cuttings, which are in our greenhouse, is going through a process inside the greenhouse, and we are following that up with the registration, with the mobile registration. I must say some locations are farther than others. We have registration here in the Netherlands, but in Uganda we don't do the registration yet. Now also these systems are supported by a smart greenhouse, so Wi-Fi, a climate computer, also labor registration inside the greenhouse. Now all this information is gathered to our ERP system. Now, we are currently using Agriware, and with that information, we are trying to improve our production operations with track and tracing for quality issues, faster implementation of correcting measures. Now, with digitalization, we really can speed up these processes. Currently, we are also setting up management information. Now, in the middle, you see the data warehouse, which you're currently using, and I'm very curious about the new solution which Agriware is currently developing, special for the horticultural industry. Now, the idea is that all the systems that store the data, like the ERP system, Mercado, our breeding systems, but also our commercial systems, but also the systems in the greenhouse, the climate computer is connected through this data warehouse, and we do analysis with that currently with Power BI. So this is the future setup which we want to achieve with management information. Now, what is our view on digitalization? Our view is really that it is a solution to improve processes within the company. So it's, like earlier said, it's not standalone. It's really a solution to improve the process. And what we do currently is we select certain processes which we think we can optimize and generate value for our customers, and think about solutions, how to improve those processes, and as a possible solution, digitalization. Now, examples of those processes are given on the slide. Now, first of all, real-time registration of activities. Now, as said, part of our greenhouses, we are already doing this, but we like to extend that to all our greenhouses. And you can think about registration of movement of plants, waste, labor usage, and also allocation for delivery, all with scanning and digitalization. Next one is our order process. We receive still a lot of maybe old-fashioned orders through email. Our last customer is just a year off of faxing, but we think we can really make a big step with this digitalization of the order process. But we need, of course, the customer. It should be a win-win situation. Another example of a process which we are thinking about to implement digitalization is real-time management information. That is really the registration of picking performance, of quality performance, not to send them, not with bad performance to send them home, but to learn, really to learn from good performing people. How are they doing it comparing to others who have less performance? So yeah, really a step-by-step selecting of processes that are ready for further digitalization. And also the technology should be available to support this process. Yeah, but it's always important to make a cost-benefit analysis. Just not go for digitalization. For example, registration in an African farm today, is it a good thing given the fact that currently we have poor infrastructure present, internet, Wi-Fi coverage. IT support is not always in place and has the correct or the good level of knowledge. And probably a lot of training is necessary. So the key takeaway is to really get a strong foundation in place before you go to digitalization as a solution. You must think broader than only scanning, but for example, hardware, scanning stations, training, all that kind of things should be in place to make this a success. Now, a key success factor highlighted. Empowering people to work in new ways with engagement, technology and training. It's important to keep it simple and transform step by step. Don't make too big steps because you can go completely the wrong way. And we really believe that digitalization is a solution to improve processes. The journey should be together. The knowledge is in the field, I can say not with the management, but really in the field. They know what they are doing every day. And it should be supported by technology and training. And as said, keep it simple. Make small steps. Evaluate and then make the new step. Yeah, that's all what I want to say today. So thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you, Ernst. If you have a question for Ernst, go to our chat window and just put your question there. I can guarantee we have time for all the questions because we see that this subject is very much alive. So a lot of people are reacting. A lot of people really want to know more about your work, about Peter and about Jacco. No worries if your question is not part of this event in the end. We will get back to you after. For now, I think maybe it's nice to ask you a question from one of our viewers.
Yeah.
Timon would like to know, what is your ultimate objective, so your ultimate goal with digital transformation?
Yeah, I can say I agree with Peter. There's no one goal. It should be completely absorbed within the company as said, as a solution to improve processes. And so it's not one goal which we are going to achieve and then we're finished. It's part of continuously improving the process and digitalization. The way digitalization is now available through apps, through middleware, it's much more. The boundary is much more lower to go for that solutions. You don't need to implement a complete difficult or complex system to do part of the digitalization. So. It's not one goal. It's really continuously improving your processes through digitalization.
Yes.
But also be aware that sometimes the solution cannot be digitalization or not yet digitalization.
Do you have an example of that?
Yeah, for example, you're scanning here in the Netherlands inside the greenhouse, and as also said in the presentation, we like or it's a good idea maybe to also implement that in our African farming in Uganda. But then we realized, yeah, we need a lot of training. The IT support is not there in place. We're doing IT support from Holland for our Uganda farm. So there should be a certain foundation in place to really support those people who are working there with the transformation. So yeah, we have to discuss this further, and maybe we are going to expone it a little bit longer, and then do the step of digitalization.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's you really have to think it through, make a cost-benefit analysis, and discuss with a lot of people also in the field. What is their opinion? Will it work? Will it not work? Yeah, so that's what we believe we should follow that process.
Yeah, sounds like a long process, but worthwhile.
But it's also a lot of fun because
of course.
Yeah, if you succeed to implement like scanning or something and it works, and you can follow the batches of plants throughout the greenhouse, you know exactly how much inventory you have. Yeah, that's and it works. Yeah, it's great to have it, and it will help you a lot with efficiency and to improve your process.
Of course, yes. Well, and there's a question from Rijk. Even though he knows it's a never-ending process, still, he would love to know, in your organization, where do you feel, where are you in the digital transformation, let's say on a scale from 1 to 100?
1 to 100, okay.
Is it possible for you to...
Yeah, and an example where we're not very far is, for example, the climate computer is already in the industry for about 30 years. And it's used, of course, for growing, but it's not connected yet with other data. And but I think it's throughout the sector or throughout the industry. But on the other hand, we are scanning boxes that are coming in from Uganda. We have track and trace in place, so we know exactly the origin of the batches of plants, so we can track issues, quality issues faster, and implement correcting measures. So yeah, it really depends on which process. So
it's probably hard to put a number on it.
An average, let's say 60 or something. 60, yeah.
Yeah, and that feels on track, or?
Yeah. We are a lot of we put a lot of thought in it. And what we have to do with it. But yesterday we had a colleague of us visiting us, and we were discussing scanning with barcodes or with tags, and they had a great idea. So we can really use that idea. So I'm now also very fond on looking at other companies, how far they are. But how do they cope with issues? How do they organize their processes, and really help each other to make a bigger step?
That's always that's what basically everyone in this event, both the viewers and the participators, are doing now.
Exactly. Yeah,
to get inspiration from each other, learn from each other.
In the end, the complete industry will benefit. If we succeed to make our processes more efficient and be faster on the market, and so on and so forth.
Great. On that note, I think it's good to go to our next statement. The next statement we want to discuss also with our viewers, so go ahead and go to the poll. The statement is: digital transformation makes growers work more efficiently, but it will make them less flexible. So in the meantime, Peter and Jacco are joining me here again. Fill out if you agree or disagree with this statement. Digital transformation makes growers work more efficiently, but it will make them less flexible. So, first I'd like to ask you, Ernst, what is your opinion on the matter?
Yeah, no, I don't think they are less flexible. Like earlier discussed, their work will probably change to more analysis of the data, but they can still make their decision. Do I go left or do I go right? Yeah, so I don't think they are less flexible. But yeah, really, the work will change. That's what I think. But on the other hand, yeah, there are a lot of more people looking at that data, so and have opinions, and yeah, we should really let them do their job.
But discussing might take more time because more people are suddenly involved, maybe.
Yeah. It's people like to give their opinion about something. So, especially in Holland. So that's.
I think worldwide.
Yeah, I think worldwide. So yeah, that is a thing we have to cope with discussions inside the company about data. But in the end, yeah, like Peter also said earlier, the grower is the one that has the knowledge, that is in the greenhouse every day, and is dealing with the plants every day. So yeah. His opinion is, I think, the most important one.
Yeah. Well, Peter, what do you think about the statement? Could it make growers more efficient but less flexible?
No, I think it's totally the opposite. I think you have more data, so you can be far more flexible. Also, if you look to the market, you get more data to predict demand. You have more data to steer your growing processes. So I think it's the opposite. You will be capable of thinking, making quick decisions. So I think it will be more flexible. But flexibility in itself is not a goal. It's that you use the right timing to use your decision, and then data is also very helpful. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm taking a look at Jacco. Jacco, what do you think? Do you agree with Peter? Is it the opposite, or do you see that it could make growers less flexible?
In my mind, it all depends what result you're optimizing towards. So I think that with increasing quality demands and reliability demands, let me put it this way. Digital transformation, I think it can make sure that we have robust processes where we need them. And I think what it allows is maybe a different kind of flexibility. I think of it as flexibility at scale where possible. It is instead of walking through and checking every plant for accuracy or for fit and then acting upon it, maybe you get an exception report to say, here's the 5 areas you need to look at. And now you've just freed up time because instead of looking at all the plants, you look at these 5. And so you create an opportunity to address that better. So in my mind, it's flexibility of anything goes, I think, is something that is going to ultimately conflict with the need for robust, reliable, high-quality supply into the chain. I think that by having the things we know how we want to do it organized and optimized, that frees up time to improvise where we're trying to get the last couple of % perfect.
Any reaction? Do you agree?
I think growers are more on top of their work. They're more in control of their work with data. Yeah, they can adjust, they can interpret it, they can do analysis. So I think the work will be much more fun to do. Just not a lot of trial and error, but really come to the cause of something and implement a solution. Yeah. And yeah, I think with data, that gives you the information to do so.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it will be much more fun for the growers.
I can imagine. Well, let's see what our viewers think. I think most of our viewers agree with you. 74% says no. It will not make them less flexible. However, 21% says yes, so not everyone agrees. And 4% of our viewers don't know, but maybe they have some more insights now based on what you said about the subject. Time is flying. Time is absolutely flying. There's one more question from a viewer that I would like to discuss with you, and that's the last one. Does digital transformation also go beyond the optimization of business processes, or will it result in new business models?
Good question.
So, I don't know. What do you think? Does it go beyond the optimization of business processes, or will it result in new business models? What do you think?
So I think I can use a practical example. We, and I think this is well over 20 years ago, we embarked on a tool for customers to see inventory online and just basically book their orders. And in 2021, that sounds like a no-brainer. That's what everybody does. In 1998, I think that was 1998, 1999, that was a big deal. Not everyone had internet. You know, we still had more orders coming in by fax and over the phone than through email. But that created a model where previously most of the orders required one of our sales team members to sit across the table from a customer and write down the order, or for somebody in our inside sales team to be on the phone. It now allowed the customer to place an order and look for the right product and the preferred source of supply at their own time and on their own terms. And I think that you know, today in e-commerce, that's a given, but I think that really helped us to do business with customers the way they wanted to do business with us. Because if I'm a customer who's evaluating maybe different varieties and I'd like to know more, then we would like a consultative specialist to be part of that conversation. If I know what I want and I just want to book it and get it off my to-do list, this online avenue was great. So we've seen by a digital transformation effort in our order management, we've actually seen our business model change where, in fact, our sales force, after initial hesitation, they actually like that this online opportunity is there because it means that customers that are self-serving still get the product they want, and it frees up the sales rep to go and visit to the customers where we need to do new variety presentations, walk through a culture issue, and do things of that nature. So the answer is it can absolutely create new business models, and I've seen it happen time after time.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Peter? Do you see the same?
Jacco, it's not only about efficiency; it's about how you approach the market and how you earn the money for the company in the end. But it's also emerging towards that point. So it's about processes, but definitely it's also about the product and changing the product and the way you offer the product in the market, or a new market can also be an issue.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think time-wise, we have to go to the end of this event. Thank you so far. For now, I want to invite my colleague William here for a short recap. So we've come to the end, and well, there's a lot to discuss about this topic, that's for sure. This is a theme that we won't be able to stop talking about anytime soon. So, William, welcome back.
Thank you.
After hearing all our guests of today, what would you say are the keys to success?
Yeah, well, I think it's quite interesting that the whole session was about digital transformation, and every time it came down to people and processes.
Yeah.
And I think that's crucial because digital transformation is not a goal in itself. Mm-hmm. It should serve your business goal, and it's what you do with it. It was also said about data. It's just how you implement it. It is what you take out of it.
Yeah.
And so people are key. People with vision, people with change management skills, but also people in the front line needs to be recruited, but also supported by the management, because I think, yeah, vision comes from management, but the transformation comes bottom up. Mm-hmm. So, and the last thing I would say is that the digital transformation is a process. So you need to think big and act small. So why not start tomorrow?
Great. Thank you for this recap. And well, I would like to thank all our guests of today, of course. Jacco Kuipers, CFO for Bol Horticultural Company. Peter Verstegen from Rijk Zwaan. And Ernst Barendregt from Royal van Zanten. We were really delighted to have you here with us today. Thank you for coming. Jacco, I would say good luck with your working day. That's just starting. And thank you for waking up this early to talk to everyone here in the studio. Have a good day. Peter and Ernst, thank you for making the trip to the studio, being here with us. Have a safe trip back. And to all of our viewers of today, thank you for watching and participating, asking your questions. I hope we can learn from each other and keep on learning from each other. We will get back to you about your question if it was left unanswered. And if you have any more questions, you can still ask us. Just contact us, email us. And for now, I wish you a very good day. Thank you.